The building is still. It is 5:47 in the morning. You are the only person in the room and you prefer it. The floorboards hum with the memory of footsteps that never arrived. Outside, the city sleeps under a gray blanket, streetlights casting long, indifferent shadows along empty sidewalks. Inside, the air carries a faint scent of lemon disinfectant, the kind used by a cleaning crew that left hours ago. You sit at a desk that stretches across the width of a small conference room, its surface polished to a mirror finish that reflects nothing but the faint glow of a laptop powered by a single cord stretched taut to an outlet near the wall. The silence here is thick, a kind of velvet that muffles your own breathing. You have been told that wealth brings noise, parties, demands, the constant buzz of attention, but this is different. This is the silence that replaces the noise. You wonder if anyone else in the world knows this particular hush, this sacred pause between old life and whatever comes next. Level 1. The beneficiary. The silence changes here. You receive the call at precisely 6:13 a.m., a single ring that cuts through the quiet like a blade. The voice on the other end is clipped, professional, delivering numbers that reshape your reality in seconds. After hanging up, you stare at the phone as if it were a foreign artifact. The caller mentions a transfer scheduled for noon and advises you to clear your schedule for tomorrow's confirmation meeting. For a moment, you consider who might have known to contact you this early, this urgently, but dismiss the thought. You are still in pajamas, feet bare on cold concrete, and the world outside remains frozen. The silence that replaces the noise now feels like a held breath. You think about telling someone, perhaps a sibling or a colleague, about the figure in your bank account, but you think better of it. You consider, contact your financial advisor tomorrow and request diversification of assets. You do not say it aloud. The silence absorbs the idea whole before it can escape into air. Level 2. The advisor. The silence changes here. At 11:55 a.m., Marcus arrives at the office without knocking, his shoes leaving faint scuff marks on the polished floor. He is 27, wearing a navy suit that stretches too tight across his shoulders, and he carries a leather folio that smells of fresh leather and old coffee. He sits across from you without invitation, spreading spreadsheets across the table like a surgeon preparing for an operation. You notice his eyes flick to your hands, as if measuring the steadiness of your pulse. He speaks in a voice calibrated to the room's hush, detailing tax implications and offshore holdings with clinical precision. When he pauses, you expect a question, but he merely taps his pen twice against the paper. You think about asking him what he would do in your position, but you swallow the curiosity. You tell him that your only priority is security. He nods once and sets the files down. The silence that replaces the noise now carries the weight of unasked questions. Level 3. The neighbor. The silence changes here. On Tuesday afternoon you step onto the balcony for air that never comes, and below you see a woman in a floral dress kneeling beside a mailbox, placing flyers for a yoga studio. She looks up, catches your gaze through the glass railing, and offers a smile that does not reach her eyes. You retreat inside without raising a hand in greeting. Later, a knock arrives at your door. A package you did not order sits in the hallway, wrapped in brown paper and tied with twine. You leave it untouched until evening, when the building's intercom crackles to life with a muffled greeting. You choose not to answer. The silence that replaces the noise now feels like a wall built floor by floor, brick by brick, each silence louder than the last. Level 4. The lawyer. The silence changes here. Friday morning brings a man in a charcoal suit who identifies himself as representing your estate. His voice is low, practiced, every syllable measured to avoid unsettling the fragile peace you have cultivated. He asks about offshore accounts, trusts, and the naming of beneficiaries with a tone that borders on intimacy. You answer in monosyllables, each word feeling like a transaction. He leaves behind a single envelope on your desk, its seal unbroken, no return address visible. Inside, a single sentence is typed on thick parchment, "Prepare for the next horizon." You file the paper away but cannot bring yourself to open it again. The silence that replaces the noise now hums with the promise of movement you are not ready to make. Level 5. The stranger. The silence changes here. Sunday morning, you wander through a grocery store that smells of pine and disinfectant, moving down aisles you once frequented without thought. A stranger stops you near the dairy section, hand hovering in the air as if waiting for a signal. He speaks quietly, mentioning a lottery ticket sold 3 blocks away that matched every number you have ever dreamed of. You feel his breath on your cheek, see the tremor in his fingers as he points eastward. You thank him but do not take the ticket he offers. You walk away, leaving it on the shelf beside cans of soup. The silence that replaces the noise now feels like a compass needle spinning, pointing nowhere you want to go. Level 6. The friend. The silence changes here. Monday evening, a former colleague texts you after 3 years of radio silence, inviting you to a rooftop bar overlooking the city's glittering grid. You accept within seconds, sensing the unspoken need for validation behind the invitation. At the bar you sit across from her, the clatter of glasses and murmur of strangers forming a backdrop to your shared presence. She orders a drink identical to yours, slides it toward you with a grin that hides relief. You discuss market trends and childhood memories with equal weight, each topic dissolving into the next. When she leaves, promising to stay in touch, you realize neither of you will. The silence that replaces the noise now carries the echo of a door closing gently but forever. Level 7. The director. The silence changes here. By August the media descends, helicopters hovering at a distance like predatory birds. Reporters camp outside your gate, microphones pointed at the iron bars until the sound becomes a continuous drone. You wake each morning to headlines chronicling your every move, your face plastered across digital feeds without consent. You wear sunglasses indoors, dim the lights, and let the curtains remain drawn. A film crew arrives unannounced to document your morning routine, but you refuse to perform. They leave a card reading, "Understood." The silence that replaces the noise now feels like a cage lined with velvet, soft enough to mask the clank of its hinges. Level 8. The empty. The silence changes here. Winter arrives quietly, frost coating the windows each dawn with lace patterns that resemble old letters you never received. You spend hours standing before a wall that once displayed framed photographs, now bare except for faint outlines where dust has settled. The city outside hums with the pulse of lives lived in motion, yet inside you feel a stillness that borders on suffocation. You consider calling the stranger from the grocery store, the advisor from the office, anyone who once occupied your thoughts, but the numbers blur together on the screen. You pour yourself coffee and watch steam curl into nothingness above the mug. The silence that replaces the noise now feels like a final breath held before a plunge into darkness. Level 9. The witness. The silence changes here. Dawn breaks on a day identical to the one that began it all, yet the room bears a new shape, a new weight. You rise and move to the window, watching snow fall gently over rooftops you once believed held answers. Your breath fogs the glass as you whisper a single phrase into the still air, a promise to no one and everyone alike. The silence that replaces the noise settles around you like a shroud, thick and absolute. You hear the soft click of a door opening somewhere far below, a sound that drifts upward like a rumor. You do not turn to look. You remain seated, watching the snow blanket the city in a flawless mute white. The building is still. It is 5:48 in the morning. You are the only person in the room and you prefer it.